unusual, I guess, about you and is that this was pretty much your first startup and it hasn't failed like sort of drastically. Most people have quite a few failures before they get to, you know, a good product or a good business. Is there anything, I guess, you could put that down to without, you know, in other simple terms, you obviously done it very well and you're particularly detailed and meticulous, but were there particular things you reckon you did on certain turning points where you thought, okay, this is why we didn't absolutely fail and basically it never end up being a proper business?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I don't know if it's a certain thing. I think it's a series of small things. Right? It doesn't happen overnight. It's a series of really small decisions that you make with good judgment that lead to success. But maybe some big turning points for us. One is, it sounds simple, but we didn't give up, right? It took a lot of time. Some meetings are terrible. Like Justin came back from a meeting once and I said, how'd it go? And he said the hotel general manager said to him halfway through the meeting, so when is your boss arriving? And, you know, like,
that's brilliant. That's because what? So he was
so young.
Yeah.
He's like 23 and like this general manager 60 and wearing a suit and tie. And so it doesn't happen overnight, but I think a few things is a lot of founders have tunnel vision. They think something should exist in the world the way they want it to exist, but then they put it out into the world and the consumer says, actually, this is how it should exist. And they say no, right? And so our example of that is, how we started this story was, we thought we should build a guest app for hotels. We went and launched a guest app in hotels. And then what we observed was actually no guests wanted to use it. They didn't care to download an app. But what started happening is our app started getting used. And what was really happening is hotel staff were pretending to be guests using it.
Right.
And that was really odd, except when we asked them why, well, what we'd just done accidentally, because our app needed to order room service and housekeeping maintenance, and because maintenance, room service and front desk weren't on a piece of software, we needed to put iPads at each department. And once we put iPads at every department, suddenly we'd put the first communication software between each department. And so if the front desk got a housekeeping request, instead of tracking down housekeeping, all they had to do was go into the app and say, housekeeping, clean room 202, and suddenly housekeeping had that request. So we were getting guest requests, but staff were putting them in. And so we very quickly that night built on our back end, which was meant to just receive guest requests. We created an add internal staff guest request button, right? That button allowed hotel staff to send requests for the guest around the hotel. That button's become our entire business. We no longer have a guest app. We just have that button. That button's become everything, right? Because now Alice today is a hotel operations platform, which just means it's what housekeepers and front desk and concierge and maintenance all use to communicate internally and track all their work. And a guest can still pick up the phone, they can use apps, they can text message in through different pieces of software, but it always ends up in Alice. And so we didn't have tunnel vision, and a lot of founders do. And I think that helped us be really successful because we were able to change course into the real need.
Do you think that connects at all to, I read something that you said you really have to understand what causes people to use your product. Do you think that's connected? And could you elaborate on that particular phrase and why you think that matters so much?
Well, so if we were steadfast, and I'll give Justin the credit for it. If we were steadfast on building an app, and it took a while, it took 3 months to kind of say, okay, let's not do the app, let's actually build the staff platform. We would have built a product that might or might not have been successful today. Whereas if we just looked at what our software was being used for and said, okay, that is what the customer is telling us they want, let's focus now on that. And that's the beauty of software, is you can change it overnight. And so I'd say then later on, when you're bigger, what you can look at is what we call Net Promoter Score, so your NPS. And that's a very simple question. I think it came out of Deloitte and Harvard research that says the best way to figure out if someone likes something is to ask them one simple question, which is, how likely would they be to recommend it to a friend, between 0 and 10? Because if you say, do you like something, people are inherently going to lie to you or they don't know. But if you say, would you recommend it to a friend? And they would, then you've got your referral, right? And that's how. And so what we do now is we track our NPS on every user and we see which departments do we have lower NPS? and then match that to which departments are we trying to be successful in this economy. So for example, with COVID, suddenly housekeeping is really important, maintenance is really important. I'm saying, what is our NPS? Are we doing good in those departments, and how can we, you know, spend more time interviewing them and understanding what they really need today, and then developing into that.